I have in the studio Kujo Uswefrie, a former general secretary of the New Patriotic Party. He's also a legal practitioner. And thanks for joining me, sir. It's a privilege to have you again. This is the second week in a row.
Yes.
We're so much privilege. Doesn't happen very much often.
Well, it's always a pleasure being here with you.
Okay. Thank you very much also. He'll be appearing on the show alongside the NDC's chairman for Greater Accra, Joseph Niadekoka. But let's look at this. There's an ongoing registration, and we would want to talk about that as well. We want to take a look at some of the things the president said yesterday when he was inaugurating the Cape Coast Stadium, that the economy will be better improved, etc., etc. Would want to ask our guests this morning whether really that is the case. And then we'll look at the Ashanti Regional Chairman of the MPP, Chairman Wuntumi's current, is it detention or, before the police cells, or in the police cells. And we'll look at some of the causative effects or the reasons why he's there. But let's touch base with the president inaugurating a stadium or a new stadium in the central region. And he said, of course, it was in fulfillment of a promise made by the former president of the Republic of Ghana who passed on, Professor Mills. But he said it was important that Ghanaians took cognizance of the fact that his government was well primed in improving infrastructure in the country, and particularly looking at that very stadium was one of the most insightful points of infrastructure that the country can boast of, improving sports, all enabling sports in the country, so to speak. And so
he wants us to do what?
Well, he feels that because of that, he should be retained in office for the second term.
Well, let me extend Nana Akufo-Addo's warm greetings to your viewers and to your esteemed loyalists.
Thank you.
When I got here, I was watching the program, and I think that I must commend you for a good job done.
Thank you.
I've always heard this president talk about the fact that he ought to return to power because he's done what? Built a stadium, or for the country.
Not only stadium, he's built flyovers.
Well, I'll come to that.
He's built airports.
I'll come to that.
Polytechnics.
You know what? His Excellency J. Kufuor had the Secondary Tamale, Greater Accra, and Kumasi Sports Stadium built
and rehabilitated.
Yes.
Okay.
2 new ones built, and 2 refurbished and expanded, and made a first class, stadium, the 2 of them, for this country. And in spite of that, the country rejected the NPP in 2008. For the first time in the history of Cape Coast, the road asphalt built from Accra to Takoradi was there for the evidence for everybody to see. Water for the first time flowed in the central region, especially at the secondary schools that were there, that had to carry cans to cross roads at their own, cost, to humanity. And in spite of that, we lost the central region. There was this particular road. I'm not even talking about the Accra-Kumasi road. I'm talking about the Pantang-Manfe, that road. The NDC is on record to have stated that it cannot be built because there were drafts, living in those areas, and that you cannot construct a road in there. Kufuor did an asphalt, 2-lane, each way, 4-lane road over there.
Up to Manfi.
What happened? So, look, I think that the politicians don't get it. They think that if you put up this infrastructure, that is to say that you are improving lives of people, and therefore they must thank you for having staffed them over the years. For 8 years now, let this president go and ask the jobless, the graduates out there unemployed, who for the last 8 years have all completed schools and have not gotten jobs to go to.
So your point is that it's the bread and butter issues that matter more.
It is bread and butter issues. It has nothing. Look, for every area that you go to, look, you say you built a stadium in Cape Coast. Fantastic. But what has it got to do with the woman whose son had been sent away from school home because he has not paid the school fees, and who cannot make ends meet? A person who is out there destitute and has nowhere to lay his head. What has it got to do with him? So politicians, until they get it, that what matters most is, as John Mahama put it some time ago, that you need to put money in people's pockets. You remember His Excellency, the late President, Professor Mills. He asked them, if you put your hands in your pocket, do you touch anything? Do you feel anything? And they said no. Then they said that the government has failed you. In spite of the monumental, achievement of His Excellency Jacob Kufuor's time, free, national health insurance scheme, that was a national matter. It was not something that is like Cape Coast. Those footballers. And
so you're saying it was not area specific or location specific or region specific?
Not necessarily.
It was a mass.
I'm even saying the whole national health insurance benefited everybody in this country. And even that free, maternal care for mothers across the country.
But you're not assuming in any way that because the Kufuor-led administration built massive infrastructure, yet his party was rejected in the 2008 polls, that same could happen. I hope that's not the scenario.
It is because you look, the ordinary man in the street, his interest is not whether or not you have built a flyover at Circle.
You don't think it matters?
There's somebody who lives in, say, East Legon or Adenta or Medina who will never go through that route.
You don't think people?
So what is it?
You don't think people could be persuaded by the giant edifices of the sea?
Let them
that it's a semblance of development.
Let this government delude themselves by thinking that if you do that, it means that the people of this country will reward you for having starved them, for having gotten them sleep in darkness for 4 years, for having let their jobs collapse, for their children, sons and daughters having completed the universities and polytechnics and tertiary institutions and unemployed for the last 8 years. If you delude yourself by thinking that they will thank you for a flyover, one flyover done in Circle, and let me even put it this way, that you go to some areas where virtually there's no road, passable road that leads to nowhere. And you think that because you built a road in Accra or you asphalted Accra roads, that it means that Ghana had been developed. And therefore,
so you're saying the NDC government, led by the president, John Mahama, are deluding themselves?
They don't get it. The man is deluding himself. He lives in a Kuku land. He does not live in Ghana, where those of us who live here feel it and know it. He doesn't see it. So he thinks that by doing this, look, you went to Brunha for the last time, 3-4 areas. And you know how many towns there are in the Brunha region?
Tell me.
And so if you say, for instance, you're going to Delma and put up a school there, what about the other towns around?
Well, development is a phase.
And that's the argument. And that is why I'm telling you that no amount of these gimmicks, as I put it, that he thinks he's doing something when he is indeed naked and that he's doing nothing, that will help him. If you are going around saying that I'm the president, I'm doing this and that, I'm accounting to people, tell them how much money that you've raised over the last 8 years, in your administration, and how much had gone to to that, and how much had gone waste. Let them know, because the people deserve to know. Otherwise it is easy. You go and borrow money. You use just a quarter of it to do infrastructure. 3/4 of the monies are put in your pocket and squandered by your government. And then you think that the people will thank you for putting them into such misery. The Ghanaian people would not.
The president, not only yesterday, but also in addressing workers on May Day, said it was incisive for them to notice that by next year, things would improve. Before then, at an event, he said there would be money in the pockets of Ghanaians. I mean, literally, by the close of next year, when the economy is in a better condition.
That is to say, now he admits that he's a failure. Now he admits that there are no monies in our pockets and that he's failed the people of the country. If that is what he's saying, let him openly and honestly admit it. That, yes, I told you I'll put monies in your pocket, I failed you. Now I've collapsed the National Health Insurance Scheme. I have not been able to, even pay statutory, monies or funds that should go to business assemblies and so on and so forth. Which is why, this country, we have felt, engulfing all of us. And which is why in this century, with cholera is killing Ghanaians needlessly. That I failed you. I promised that I was not going to introduce any new taxes. But since I came, I've introduced taxes upon taxes upon taxes.
But we need taxes to raise revenue for development.
Of course. But when he was promising that I'm not going to, bring any new taxes, what was he talking about? Or what was he thinking? So it seems to me that until politicians get it, and that they think that they can think for people, and that they realize that the people of this country cannot be fooled all the time, they would always fail. Let
me run this by you before we take a break, and then we invite your colleague or the next guest in the studio. Is it not just some priority in the paradigm of development that the two parties have? You feel that is the bread and butter issues that should take the center stage or the fulcrum of the development, and they think that getting the base of infrastructure and its development is the best way on which they can also satisfy the population or the masses.
Look, anywhere that you go.
And that doesn't make it any wrong either.
No, anywhere that you go, you must have your priorities right. Anywhere that you go in this country. And children and the youth are crying for jobs.
Yeah, true.
And everywhere in the world.
But so too do we need good landmarks or structures for development?
Absolutely. But which comes first? But I'll tell you, the Arab Spring.
Your government.
Look,
what would they have done?
Look, I'll come to that. The Arab Spring. You know what? Triggered it and precipitated it. It is because
the bread and butter issue triggered.
Because the mass unemployed people out there with no hope in the future, they rose up and fought their own government. If we are not careful in this country, and if continues under this bogus and incompetent administration over the next 4 years, look, the youth of this country would take up arms and come and kill us.
Are you inciting the youth?
No, I'm telling you, that is the helplessness, the hopelessness that stares them in the face. There is no hope for them. And that is why the NPP presents, hope, for the country. And so Nana Akufo-Addo says that our priority would be to create that massive job opportunities for the young men and women.
But you create jobs through structures.
Of course. And I
remember in his campaign in 2008, as well as even in 2012, said our state of economy was still in the Gordjes-Becken era,
yes, and
so needed to be propped up. But if the structures were wrong, the trade imbalances were still very much in favor of our partners, we still wouldn't get there. But we'll have to take a break. When we come back, we'll be joined by the NDC's chairman for the Greater Accra region, and Joseph Ni Adekoka is around here, and so he'll join us for the discussions. So NDC's chairman for Greater Accra, Joseph Ni Adekoka, is in the studio. Now, I'm sure you want to have a rebuttal to him. Especially, we were taking many of the commentary from what the president said yesterday. Yeah. Said, well, the stadium, among other infrastructure, were part of the whole agenda, making sure that the economy is propped up, etc. Exactly. But the NPP and even Sir John here seem to suggest that for all the things, the good reasons why infrastructure is important, the bread and butter issues should have been foremost the priority of the NDC administration. And so as a result of that, you have no need to even ask the ordinary voter for a second term for the president.
Roland, good morning. Good morning.
A third term for the party.
Good morning to your viewers, yourself, and my very good friend here. Last night, I was watching Donald Trump when he was made a presumptive presidential candidate for the Republican Party. You know what he said? He said his prime aim is to create jobs for the American people because there's massive unemployment in America. And he said, how are we going to do that? And he said, infrastructure. We have to build our airports, we have to build our roads.
Even in America?
In America, we have to build our schools. This is Donald Trump. If your people are here, they could go and look at his speech. He said the bridges must be built, the airports must be built, the roads must be built, the schools must be, the housing, infrastructure. In the past 2.5 years of President Mahama, let me mention some of the infrastructures that he has put in place that are economically beneficial as we move on, that the youth are going to benefit. In this country, if our forefathers or those who came after us had not built infrastructure, there was no need that we could only become a buyer and seller economy. Infrastructure provides jobs. Even to get there. Look, the rehabilitation of Commander Sugar Factory, that is near completion, and it's going to put up about almost 7,000 jobs, taking apart from the outgrowers, those who have to grow sugarcane for it to be what? To be bought by the sugar factory to create, to create, and then to reduce the amount of the importation of amount of sugar that we import into this country. Right? That is going to save us foreign currency. So have you seen the multiplier effect of putting up an infrastructure like the Commander Sugar Factory? Now, the construction of Elimina Fish Processing Factory is there for you to see. I was there when Professor Mills went to cut the sword. And it's going to what? Process fish. That those in the Elimina Enclave and around the coastline, when they go to sea and bring in fish, and they are not able to sell, it will not be thrown back into the sea, but it will be what? Processed. And what also will benefit us and those in that area. You know, let me go on again and tell you
what... You're going over the whole green book.
What the infrastructure tells you. We have just constructed the Simaf Cement Factory in Tema, the rehabilitation of Gihok Shoe Factory in Kumasi, the Takoradi Port expansion, the Tema Port expansion, Tamale Teaching Hospital rehabilitation, Legon Teaching Hospital, over 100 community schools that we are building, the formation of the construction of the health. Look, I can go on and on and on. A country will only prosper if there's massive infrastructure. If you see the cranes in the air, as you go out,
it signifies that there's development.
There's development.
But what about the ordinary person who feels that because I don't have employment after graduating school, and we're seeing that en masse or in huge numbers, that is critical for their daily survival, other than infrastructure?
Let me tell you something.
And as a result of that, the criticism is that you got your priorities wrong.
You see, government can only do what? Employ not more than 600 and so plus thousand people. The civil and public sector.
Well, we do understand.
Correct.
Create a better economy, and the private sector will absorb the rest.
That's what I'm saying. So if the government is creating an enabling environment, now when you put up a hospital, like the Reed Hospital, now the nurses who are coming out of nursing, the doctors whom we are churning out, who have if you have only Kolebu and Kumasi and what Tamale and some mediocre hospitals in the system, and you are turning up huge numbers of nurses and doctors, why are you going to employ them? So when you put up the teaching hospital like Rich, the police hospital expansion, the Kumasi hospital that is being built, the what do you call it, the Tamalewa, all those, the cheap compound, that gives you room to absorb those people that are coming out of the educational system. So you must create the power points or the power blocks That
so you create the structures.
Exactly, and then
your point has been made.
People would
it's okay. We're done with this thing about infrastructure.
I haven't finished.
You haven't finished.
I haven't finished. I haven't finished. You know, so now, Baumia, they are a flag bearer, right?
Yeah, vice president.
No, he's the flag bearer. He's the flag bearer. Baumia is the flag bearer. You know, forget about Akufo-Addo. Baumia is the flag bearer. You know,
the flag bearer is Nana Addo Dankwa Akufo-Addo.
He just went up north days that Muslims should start voting for him. Among his 10 points, there is 10 points. The 4th point says that we can increase jobs by what? Infrastructure development. He himself, they have 10 points.
And so your point is, well, you're right after all.
Yeah, you're right. So we are already doing it. We are already doing it. If there are 4 points says that they can only create employment in this job by investing massively in infrastructure. So did we go or did we come?
Now, can I quickly say this?
You've had a lot of time, sir.
Yes, you have a lot of time. There's no need for you to rebut.
On the May Day, when the president, was talking about some of these things that Adekoka talks about, he had eggs on his face. The workers' union told him that, Mr. President, you are getting it wrong. You are not living in this country. You don't feel the way that we feel. This economy is on its knees. It is in coma. And that this whole country is suffering. There's massive suffering in the land, Mr. President, if you don't get it. So you know what? It tells you that in spite of the fact that all these have been trumpeted, jobs in the air, yet to be built.
They are not phantom jobs.
Do you think for all the things that the NDC administration keeps saying, and in reality that people see, they just don't empathize with the ordinary Ghanaian?
They don't. Because you see, the reason is that
but the ordinary Ghanaian needs hospitals.
Look,
the ordinary Ghanaian needs good infrastructure, linkages. Because for example, somebody will say, I live in Kokomemle, it has to take me hours before I get to work at Toyota Ghana. But with a flyover, it takes me 2 minutes.
And somebody listening will know.
Doesn't have anything.
There's no access to anywhere. And it's a no man's land.
It's a process.
Let me say this to you. There are people who don't get it. In spite of this green book and the chip compounds that are being touted as an achievement of the John Mahama's government, there are over 3,000 nurses out there trying every day. 2 weeks ago, they were in Accra demonstrating that, Mr. President, we have finished completed schools, we need the jobs. Where are they? If indeed it is true that chip compounds have been built, and there are nurses who work in these chip compounds and so on and so forth, why are they still out there? Yeah. Why are the students, the teachers not being able to teach? Because
now let's go to the Ashanti region. We'll be talking about the voter registration exercise, the limited voter registration exercise very soon. But in the Ashanti region, Chairman Wontumi was arrested by the Ashanti Police Command. And it was after, if not days or hours of going a wall, being looked for by the police for reports made by a member of parliament for Minsha North, one Collins Owusu-Amankwa, who says that he was slapped by the Ashanti Regional Party chairman. Of course, we know that he's termed to be a warrior, etc., etc. And following that, we had people besieging the premises. We spoke to Ashanti Regional Correspondent Erastus Asari-Donko, who said that they organized a vigil, made sure that they follow through that very vigil till this very morning. Is it a case of a chairman who, well, for want of a better word, has behaved untowardly towards a certain member of parliament over a party fracas which could have been better managed by the leadership of your party?
Well, let me put it in a bigger context. Yesterday's press conference of the New Patriotic Party, it was very clear and very educative. When our General Secretary, John Boadu, led that very wonderful press conference. And he gave us examples almost all over the country where the NDC thugs were styled in macho men, led by the leadership of the NDC administration, from the general secretary down to his chairman, down to his organizers and the regional chairman and others, who have sent these thugs out there to, put the fear of the Lord in people, stopping them from registering. And even in some of the cases, regional ministers are involved in this, shameful, act. You have the regional the regional minister of the Eastern region stopping students from coming out there to be registered.
We're talking about Chairman Woodtubi, you're talking about excesses of the
water. I'm coming.
You want to lay a certain framework.
I want to
build on a certain
My brother is going to tangent.
I hope that he will not go there. Because he thinks that...
No, we'll talk about the limited registration. So